Seth Golden, who's an amazing speaker and a marketer, have said, if everybody in the room agreed with you, you wouldn't have to give the presentation, would you? So today I'm not trying to convince you of my arguments or have you agree with what I'm about to say, but it's really to get you to think about how and why the world is changing around us and how us as startup founders, we can adapt or we're going to die. So 2 fundamental shifts in consumer behavior that we look at really closely at Lett is the rise of the sharing economy. It's no longer actually the rise of the sharing economy, it's actually sharing economy 2.0. The way we commute, the way we consume, and the way we interact have been fundamentally shifted by these that have once been a startup, but now worth billions of dollars in market capitalization. So what you see in the slide here, in the future, as we see it at Lett, nobody is going to own anything anymore. What is mine is now yours for a fee. When we studied our target demographic at Lett, one thing we found was that there's a significant decrease in ownership. And we're not talking about just homes like Airbnb or cars like Uber, but it's the purchase of luxury goods in every aspect of our lives. This means that there's going to be a significant decrease in environmental impact, and people will now want access and not ownership. And that's extremely important for us as startup founders to recognize, and it's something that we live by at Lett. Okay, I'm adapting. The second trend that we looked at really closely is the on-demand service industry. So if you look at from En route, which is a local success story, shout out to En route if you guys are here. I use them on a weekly basis. They can deliver food to your door within 10 minutes. You look at Postmates. You also look at all of these amazing startups, Airbnb. Anything that you want is at your fingertips. So what is that? What's the result of all of that? The result is $130 billion worth of market cap by the top 5 privately held companies, and it's made history. I'm going to share with you some of the things I learned from a guy named Ben Berkowski. He's the author of How to Build the Next Billion-Dollar App. If you look at Line, I don't know how many of you guys know what Line is. They actually started off, it's a widely used instant communications app in Japan and Thailand, maybe not in Canada, but they actually started off as a disaster response. There was an earthquake in Japan back in 2011, and a bunch of engineers at NHN, which is the Next Human Network, they were forced to create an instant communications application that was based off the internet, because the telecommunications infrastructure was down at the time. And when they found how useful this app was, they launched it to the public, and now it's been, they have 400 million users to date. If you look at WhatsApp, when the early WhatsApp was buggy, it crashed, it was stuck, and the founders, Yang Combe and Brian actually they almost decided to quit. But what they've done is they adapted and they changed. So when Apple first released their push notification, they were very quickly to realize that their users wanted a status update, and that the rest is history. It was later sold to Facebook for $19 billion. If you look at Uber, I don't know how many of you know the story, but Travis Kalanick, his first startup was a complete fail. It's a company called Scour. It was a peer-to-peer file exchange platform. It's later sued by the giants in the entertainment industry for copyright infringements. It was sued by, I think it was sued for like $250 billion. And he was forced to file for bankruptcy and to live with his parents. But that didn't discourage him. He adapted, and he founded what was later, as we all know, called Uber. Another company, Airbnb, Airbnb's founders, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, when they first started the idea, they ran out of money, and they couldn't afford to pay rent, so they decided to rent out their air mattress in their little apartment in San Francisco, what is now known as Airbnb. They couldn't raise their first round of financing because nobody took them seriously. Who would want to welcome a stranger to their home? So what they did was they sold cereal during the election, and it was called Obama O's, and it was super cute. You guys should look it up. It's an amazing founding story. And they adapted. They ran out of money, so they made their own. So they raised $30,000 through selling cereal. And even then, when they first initially got traction, they were turned down by 7 investors. 5 of them rejected them, and 2 never responded. They just kept going, and now Airbnb's worth over $30 billion. So what do they have in common? So based on what Ben said in his book, the only thing these founders have in common is not because they were smarter than all of us. It wasn't because they raised a huge amount of capital when they're building the product. It was because they persevered for long enough until luck struck them. And through sharing my personal story of founding Lett, and my amazing co-founder Ryan here, that's what we've done. And I want to let you guys know that if we didn't adapt in the past year, if I didn't adapt on a personal level, our company wouldn't have survived. So this is Peter Thiel, the super eccentric guy that I really aspire. And he said, in all of his interviews and in his book, 0 to 1, he said, tell me something that's true almost nobody agrees with you on. I think that's a really interesting to think about. And for us at Lett, it means that we truly believe that people are able to live anywhere in the world that would fit their lifestyle. So what is Lett? We're reinventing the way people find homes. We enable and empower people to identify where they would like to live in any city that would fit their lifestyle. And our story wasn't all butterflies, and Paul knows this. When we first started, we created our MVP, and it was a neighborhood matching tool. So you tell us what you like, and we'll match you to the perfect neighborhood. That wasn't good enough as a standalone value proposition, so we pivoted. But before that happened, when I couldn't get to the right product market fit, our whole team just went our separate ways. Our original co-founding team left, and I had to start everything from scratch again. Users didn't want to use us. Investors didn't want to invest in us, and I was running out of money. So I was like, okay, so I went back to what this mentor has taught me. So you either adapt on a personal level as well as a professional level, and you just persevere through it. So after that, we pivoted to a B2B concierge. So we actually help some of the companies in the audience today to relocate their employees into foreign cities. And it's been an honor so far to be able to find homes for these wonderful people. And we're launching our platform this month where you can find your perfect neighborhood and find the right accommodation anywhere in the world. So we believe in the future there will be no employees, and people will not own the homes they live in. These are the trends that we study religiously at Lett. And based on that, we feel that in the future, all of us are going to be freelancers, digital nomads. We're going to be contractors, and we're going to have the freedom to be able to live anywhere. So on a personal level, some of the challenges that I saw was having to deal with comments like these. I'm an immigrant, and I'm a visible minority, and this is really obnoxious. I'm also a female founder, and I have to listen to misogynist comments made on a day-to-day basis in a male-dominated industry. I'm also a non-technical founder. So apparently in Silicon Valley, if you're non-technical, you shouldn't be a founder. They only invest in technical co-founders. But for all you immigrants and all you female co-founders and all you non-technical people out there in the audience and entrepreneurs alike, I'm going to leave you with this. And it's 2 quotes that is Elon Musk, and it's by Elon Musk and by, oh, the slide's not there. But it was Steve Jobs. So if something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure. And if you succeed, you're going to put a dent in the universe and impact millions of people. Thank you.
Yeah, questions.
Oh,
We have to get you back up here. Oh.
I did that on purpose.
All right, so we wanted questions. Who's got questions?
Did I cover everything, or did I scare everybody?
You solved world hunger. We're good.
What do you think has been the most difficult thing for you as a female founder?
That's a really loaded question. So I think the hardest thing is building that support network. Whether it's attending events like these. This one's a really welcoming environment, but I know there are competitions out there where you walk in, you're literally one of the two female founders in the room, or even attendees. So I think even you probably had trouble finding a female panel speaker. So being able to reach out to mentors or advisors, they're not readily accessible. So I think there's a lot that can be done in this space.
So you mentioned that you're not the technical co-founder. How did you overcome that? Did you find a technical co-founder and then it was done, or was there anything else? In my case, I wasn't a technical co-founder, but I had to put in the time and the effort to actually become a technical co-founder. So I'd love to hear your.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question.
Can everybody hear the question?
So the question was, so he's not a technical co-founder. How did I overcome that? And did I just meet a co-founder and everything went smoothly? So the answer is no. So I think the most important thing to bear in mind is that when I first started out, I only had an idea. Nobody took it seriously. But once I was able to gain validation and feedback and had customers, and then I presented that to a lot of these what you would call a great co-founder, senior developer, they were way more receptive. And actually, you would want someone that would buy into your vision and not just work for the money. So when Ryan and I first met, he was actually our customers. So him and his wife, he came from Australia, and they were staying in a hotel for 2 months. And I was like, you poor people, let me help you, let me save you. And then as we started talking about, why I'm doing what I'm doing and the vision, the validation that I had, essentially his wife is supporting him so he can work on this full time until we can generate enough revenue to pay the founders. Yeah. So I think, so to answer your question, there's a lot you can do as a business co-founder. You can actually make money before you even reach out to or find your CTO. So they're not going to own homes that they live in. So investment properties is still going to be a huge trend. Temporary accommodation, so we have a huge focus on temporary and midterm accommodation where it's going to maximize income for the landlords and property managers. And there's a huge need for expats because we're moving so often, and it's not necessarily like over a year or in the long term. Yeah. How long? Sorry, say. Okay. Yeah, for sure. So we started I started May of last year with the original co-founding team. It took us about 3-4 months to build the MVP. Tested on about 400 people, didn't get the feedback that we needed. So we just kept going and tried to figure out, what product we were supposed to be building. So we then pivoted into B2B probably like 4 or 5 months after that. Yeah. I don't think it's a matter of time. I think it's just like how many people you can talk to within that time frame. So for us, like having 400 people tell you this is not enough of a value proposition was enough for us to move on to something else. And then once we pivoted, we had clients like the next day. We cold called a bunch of companies and like we converted half of them, so. Hi, Mike.
I'm just wondering how you would define the difference between sharing economy 2.0 and 1.0.
Yeah, for sure. So I think sharing economy 2.0, it just means that they're no longer startups. They've matured enough now to be able to lobby, government policies, to lobby the government, and to expand into different sectors and verticals. So even Airbnb and Uber, they're focusing on the business sector now versus just their original user base, and kind of overcoming these barriers and launching into emerging markets. So the recent merger with DiDi China was Uber's expansion strategy. Yeah, so I think that's the difference between 2.0 and the original sharing economy.
Awesome. Yeah.